I have an opportunity to talk to you about my skates, go over some questions I got asked over on my Instagram about my skates, and do so while I am cooking a couple of steaks. So the video will probably be titled something like Skates and States. Skates and Steaks, English. Nevertheless, I gotta give you a little backstory. Again, as a reminder for anybody who's stumbling across this, the foundation of what it is I'm talking about is my transition from somebody who has not played hockey in the last 4+ years to somebody playing hockey at over 40 years old, soon to be 41, and talk about that experience in doing so. And along the way, if I continue to play, and I should say regardless, I've actually already purchased some equipment, I wanted to talk about things that I was doing in regards to equipment, and then just simply go back and start talking about things that I like or don't like involved in the sport. Equipment, coaching, being a coach, parents, all the little aspects. So just wanted to add my 2 cents to life experiences in revolving around hockey, because it was a large part of my life for a very long period of time. Nevertheless, to get into this conversation, as you can probably see over here, my skates that I got hanging out. I worked in the pro shop for years. I had the ability to get a new pair of skates essentially every time a new pair came out. I mean, I can get them more frequently if I wanted to, but it was one of those things that was a little bit of a luxury. So in that sense, and able to do that, I was really in tune with my skates. And once I started working in the pro shops, I believe I had everything from the Bauer 195, the 100, 100 Limited, the NXG, the Pro, the Reactor 9000, which is also over here, and then the Vapor 1X. And that was the last pair of skates that I got. So what I learned through that is I actually really like the stiff skates, right? Even though obviously once upon a time, you know, skates were nowhere near like they are today. I also learned that I liked a sharper skate, even though once upon a time I thought I liked it or needed a duller skate. Now keep in mind, I actually am also somebody who learned how to play stand-up, kick save, stack and pad style goaltending into the butterfly, and then taught myself things like reverse VH, backside recovery, down pushes, if you will, all that type of stuff. And I kind of experienced all of it. I experienced it as a player and a coach. So some cool things that I can kind of talk to along the way of why I've made these changes. That being said, getting back on the ice, skating was one of the things I was most worried about. Now, I didn't get my skates freshly sharpened when I got back on the ice, because I know when I got off the ice 4+ years ago, I had just actually gotten this pair of skates not long before. So I knew, obviously, and I could check my edges, that the sharpening was fine on it. It had what it had. In terms of these skates, which was my other main pair that I was going back and forth with, the sharpening, again, was pretty much fine on that as well. So it wasn't like I had to go rush out and get a skate sharpening. Now, I will say at the same time, I used to sharpen my own skates. I used to sharpen my own skates frequently. When I say frequently, probably every week, I mean, at the minimum, you know, depending on how much I was on the ice, but I skate a lot. So I did sharpen my skates pretty often, and more or less before every time I had an actual game. If I was doing some pickups and 3-on-3s, maybe I didn't do it. But if I was skating in the game, I can almost guarantee you they were freshly sharpened. If not, no more than one time. And if I went to a tournament, I would usually go to a tournament with like 3 sets of steel, all of them sharpened, and probably would use a new set per skate, if you will. So give you an idea on how I am when it comes down to how I like my skates. Now, that being said, getting back on the ice, I was a little bit worried, because even though I'm in shape, even though I've done what I needed to do, and probably in the best non-hockey shape I've ever been in my life at, yes, 40 years old, it's different than being in hockey shape. Obviously from the conditioning side of things, but then just in the technical side of things. I haven't been in a stance and I haven't shuffled in forever. So I haven't recovered continuously forever. I haven't skated for an hour and a half, hour 40, hour 50, which I normally do in the skates that I take part in 4+ years. So that being said, I was a little worried about that. Nevertheless, when I got back on the ice, this is the skate I was using. No major issues. It has the 4mm steel, which I will tell you I do prefer. The challenge I did have, however, is I don't really know where to go to get my skate sharpened anymore, right? So the places I had them done, they were fine, but not really what I liked. I did get them done at a half when I did get them done, because again, I was kind of working my way back up to a 3/8 or 7/16 if necessary. And I will say, as I got on the ice more and more, then yes, obviously I would have needed them sharper and sharper. But however, that being said, I was trying to work back into the Bauer 1X. And the reason being is because, simply put, I actually do prefer the way the skate fits my foot. It is, I will say, slightly stiffer. And if you notice, I've ignored the 9000, because even though I actually like that skate, the boot's just not stiff enough for me. It has too much play in the boot, and That's what I remember from when I used it. That's why I didn't use it. That's why when I had that skate, I actually went back to the Bauer Pro. So it really just kind of sat there all this time. Nevertheless, back to this. I do prefer the way this skate fits my foot. I like the way my foot sits in this skate. I like the way it works on the ice. What I don't like was the stock steel LS3. And if you remember when Bauer came out with the edge holder, or the Vertex edge holder with the quick change steel, you couldn't go out there and get step steel. I have step steel on that skate. On this skate, you basically were stuck with Bauer steel. And not only was the 3mm, to me, not getting the bite that I wanted to, even at 3/8, Bauer steel sucks. And because of that, I was reluctant to start using this skate. But then obviously through the interwebs and watching different people on here, I found that there are a few companies that do replacement steel. One of them, which is what I have on there now, is Titan. They also obviously talk about profiling, which I never really did before when I was playing in pro shops regularly. That being said, I said, you know what, screw it, let's give it a shot. So can't remember the profile off the top of my head. I'll put it down in the comment description section. But I got a set of steel from them because, again, I know it's high quality. I actually also have a set of Blade Tech steel on order, which is actually at Titan, getting sharpened, getting profiled and sent to me, but I'll get into that in here in a second. And that's kind of why I decided I'm going to make the jump over to this skate, despite the 3mm steel. And I'm going to work at trying to get the right profile, the right sharpening to get the right bite, so I can use those skates and feel comfortable in doing so. If worst case worse, I'll always go back to the Pro, but I'm kind of putting that on the back burner if I can. And in regards to the steel situation, I will tell you this in a little bit of a product review or company review. Titan was phenomenal. I remember ordering them on April 30th, the Sunday night. I had them in hand, I think it was like May 2nd, May 3rd. So that was really impressive to me. I haven't got back to steel I had sent to them to get back yet, because this is what has happened since. I got the skates, I got the steel, put them on the skates, used them twice, and I will say I do like and notice the profile each time I've gotten on the ice a little bit more. I will say in terms of bite, no problem with my stance, no problem when I dig in, but not as sharp as I would necessarily would like. So with the second set of steel, which again I'm waiting on, I asked them to do a 3/8, and then I'll obviously compare the 3/8 versus obviously what this is on this, about a half. And if I like that 3/8 with that profile, I will then obviously get these skates done at 3/8. And I can do that locally. Obviously I can send it back to them, or if necessary, tweak the profile. So I'll play around here a little bit. And that already answers kind of a couple of questions I got along the way. One question I got obviously is how sharp do I like my skates? Yes, I like my skates sharp. I feel like you should try to have sharper skates, especially in modern day goaltending. I will also say that you should get your skates sharpened regularly. Now again, what that's going to be for everybody is a little bit different. For me, that meant I was getting my skates sharpened probably before every game, every other game. Obviously, if you're youth and you're playing a lot more, it might be a little harder to do that, depending on obviously where your games are and if you only go to one sharpener, because I would recommend trying to stick with the same sharpener if you got a good one by you. But the whole point is there, you got to do what works for you in that regards. I also was asked about my preference in skate. Now, I've been a Bauer guy my whole life. Again, I really like the 1X. I haven't used anything of the newer skates. I know they're very similar. I haven't tried the different fit system they have. I am interested in the Connect skate, but I'm also interested in the true skates, preferably the full custom. The problem there, however, is I see some issues, or I've heard some issues, I should say, with durability. And even though I don't skate as much at as high a level, I don't know if I'll run into the same durability issues. I like what the concept of that skate is in terms of that one-piece design. Well, that'd be my preference anyway. And that transfer of power to the ice. And again, it has 4mm steel. So don't think I'm not really intrigued by that. But I'm not going to also just spend, $1,200, $1,300 to kind of try something. Unless I really know it's going to work and going to be with me for, a couple of years anyway. Because even though I would really like to get back to being a gear whore, I'm not going to get back to buying gear on a yearly basis. It's going to be every couple of years, if I ever even buy new gear again, to be perfectly honest. I'll go watch, I'll go look, I'll go want, but in terms of actually purchasing, probably not going to happen that much. And then I think the other things I were asked in regards to skates were just simply along the lines of like, my preferences, right? And again, I already know I mentioned a couple of them, but the thing I'll say with skates is that you really got to try them, because it is a personal thing. And what I mean by try them, I'm not saying you got to go out there and buy a pair of CCM, a pair of Graf, a pair of, Bauer, a pair of True. You got to put them on the stores. You got to find out what's right for your foot. Because yes, I know durability is something I just mentioned, but When I worked in the store, we get somebody that was like a fanboy of a brand. Now, I just happen to really like Bauer skates. I don't really use much else outside of maybe my player gloves, a helmet, and player equipment, fine. But goaltending stuff, I don't like their equipment really at all. I have their cup, I have their knee guards, but outside of that, I don't want to even touch their goaltending stuff. Where there are guys that will buy it just simply because it says Bauer on it. And that's not really how it should be done. You see the same issue with guys that go out there and buy running shoes. They buy it on somebody else's recommendations. I have news for you. My foot, your foot is different. And what might be perfect for me could be completely wrong for you. And if you're not doing your homework there and really doing what you should be in regards to making sure you get the right thing for the type of foot you have, your gait, your stance, your stride, all of that, it's irrelevant to what I like. So you really have to kind of be careful when you ask others' opinions on that. The other thing I want to talk about, and I'm not going to do it on this video, so there will be a part 2 if you will, but I'm going to record that another time, is kind of the not only picking your skate, but the care of the skate. And I see a lot of guys, even on the social media, give really bad advice or just not really explain things thoroughly, and they kind of talk in too much absolutes. And I've heard a lot of things like absolute in terms of skate sharpening, absolute in terms of brand, and like I just mentioned, there's really no absolute, right? It might be better, it might be preferences, but there's no absolute. But I'm going to talk about obviously how to make sure your skates last a long time, how to make sure your feet don't necessarily have a negative experience with the skate, how they should maybe fit depending on where you are in the growth curve, you know, if you're already an adult versus obviously a kid, obviously being a parent and picking and helping your kids get the right skates, and then maybe even the quality or the level of skate, because that's another issue I see a lot of guys do is cheap out on skates. And working in a pro shop, and I experienced this with road biking because I do road bike, if your foot's not growing especially, even if you're not playing 6 times a week, I would recommend buying the better skates. Because a lot of times what ends up happening is a guy comes into the pro shop, buys that mid-range skate to save $200 or $300, and then they're back in the store 6 months later spending the $8,000, $9,000, $1,000 on a pair of skates, when now they have 2 pairs of skates essentially that are brand new that they've spent almost $2,000, $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 on, when they could have had 1 pair of skates for obviously, you know, 60% of that cost. So keep that stuff in mind when it gets into that point of, you know, where I'm at in my skate purchasing career and life as well. So I'll get into more of that stuff, like I said, in another video. But if you have any questions about that stuff, drop them down below. Also, you know, I got new pants I want to kind of do a comparison on, knee guards, cup, core shorts, which is something I wear. Again, I'm going to talk about skates. I'm going to talk about parenting. I'm going to talk about being a parent of a hockey player, being a coach dealing with parents, being a coach dealing with coaches. Again, I'm going to get into all that stuff from my personal perspective. But anyway, guys, thanks for joining me. If you do like this, please like, follow, comment, subscribe, share, anything that makes this stuff kind of help we grow out there a little bit, and share it with somebody else that might find some value in it. Because I really do enjoy making this kind of content. Over the last number of years, majority of what I've done on social media has been like nutrition, fitness, which is part of what I do both professionally in law enforcement and as a side hustle with my coaching business, as well as talking about like the overall mentality and lifestyle, my journey of becoming a parent. But this is something that's going to be a little bit different, more for fun than anything else. I'm not trying to monetize it. If somebody wants to come along and say, can you review my equipment? 1,000%, I'd be love to do so. But at the end of the day, this is just a matter of having fun and giving me something to do with something I love. So if you have any questions, like I said, drop them down below. Give me something to talk about. I'd love to have that conversation.